conflicts are always part of our reality, and I'm very glad that I can ask you as an expert for conflict management some questions. And let's start from the very first beginning. And this first question is, what is a conflict?
Mm-hmm. And that's a good question already. And by the way, I have to admit that I really love conflicts, I have to say. So what is a conflict? What I very often experience is that leaders are too fast in calling something a conflict, something that maybe is just a kind of emotional discussion between two people, between two team members, two co-workers, whatever. And I would not always call this already a conflict if people start to have an emotional discussion because maybe they have different opinions, because very often they come to a good, let's say, a conclusion or a consensus. So I would start to call something like this a conflict when really it seems to be at least very difficult or almost impossible that either one of the two involved people changes his or her opinion. That then I would call a conflict, not earlier.
Okay. Yeah. So do leaders always have to fear that conflicts escalate, or?
Oh, not always. You know, it really depends on what spirit does the team have, or what kind of company culture does the company have. So what I really often witness is that even if we have a conflict, that people can solve conflicts by themselves. Of course, that's not always possible, but as a leader, I would first of all, let's say, let people go, observe them. Of course, you have to see what's going on, if something happens, yes or no, but people have a very good chance to solve conflicts themselves.
Okay. So have you ever made the experience that leaders tend to avoid some conflicts?
Unfortunately, yes. It really depends a lot on the personality that each person brings into this conflict situation, and of course always also if we talk about leaders. But as we said before, first of all, see if the two people can solve the conflict by themselves, but if not, then you have to interfere. And because avoiding conflict means or brings the danger that the conflict escalates. And please be careful, never let conflicts in your team or in the company become a kind of sport. Because when people really maybe find also a kind of pleasure to battle against each other, that brings a lot of, let's say, or it endangers the productivity of a team and of a company in the end. Statistics show us that people being in conflict have a 50 to 70% lower productivity. So avoiding conflicts always brings the risk of low productivity, and it will always come back as a kind of boomerang. So yes, I have made that experience, but my recommendation is never close your eyes in front of conflicts.
Mm-hmm. And finally, where's the point where you have to recommend an external moderation for a conflict? Or?
Yeah. Yes, there is a point there where I would recommend it, but what I want to underline is that if you as a leader come to the conclusion I want to have or I have to have an external moderation, please do not consider that as a kind of weakness. I would say it's more a strength when you come yourself to the conclusion I have to get some external support. But it does not always have to be really external in terms of somebody comes like a supplier, like an external mediator, moderator. I would first think about the possibility, is there somebody, for example, in the work council? Is there somebody who has the experience to mediate or to moderate conflicts? Or do you have a specific person in your HR department, for example? Very often there we have experts in conflict moderation. And but if conflicts escalate more and more, then it depends really individually. We really have to look at that individual situation and that conflict. But sometimes it is absolutely recommendable to have an external moderator, because an external person always brings more the neutral aspect. And maybe when a conflict has escalated, at least one of the two parties maybe does not absolutely trust in somebody who's coming from internal. And there I would recommend to take somebody from outside to support and to help to solve the conflict.
Okay, so thank you very much. It was very interesting.
You're welcome.
Thank you.